This is going to be a fun one. What I'm going to do is simplify these four imaginary numbers because with exponents on them, they are not considered simplified. What you need to know going into this is that I squared is equal to -1. That's going to be really important going forward. That is how I'm going to simplify these. So you need to know exponent rules when you are simplifying these. One exponent rule you need to know is that when you have an exponent and then you are raising to another exponent, those exponents get multiplied together. I'm going to demonstrate that now in the first example. What I'm going to do is rewrite I to the 58th power. What I want to do is have I squared involved because I know that I squared is equal to -1. So I'll explain what I'm doing here. I know that 58 is an even number, which means it must be divisible by 2. What I then did was rewrite it as 2 times 29, because 2 times 29 is 58. And now, following my exponent rules, these would get multiplied together because, like I said earlier, when you have an exponent and you're raising to another exponent, you multiply. So this is the same thing. I haven't changed any values. Now, knowing that I squared is -1, I'm going to make that substitution. So this is really just -1 raised to the 29th power. And if you know anything about exponents, hopefully you know that raising a negative number to an odd exponent equals a negative number. And when you raise a negative number to an even exponent, it becomes positive. So -1 multiplied by itself 29 times is going to stay negative. I to the 58th power just simplifies down to -1. I'm going to do something similar with the next one because I have another even exponent. 36 is the same thing as 2 times 18. So I can write it as I squared raised to the 18th power. And again, we know that I squared is -1. This time, -1 is being raised to an even power, which means it becomes positive. So this equals +1. My next two are odd exponents. So those are not divisible by 2. So it's going to be one extra step in order to get that I squared involved. What I'm going to do is take one of the i's out, and I'm going to do it in this way. Another exponent rule is that when you are multiplying these two values together, you would add their exponents. So that I that I took out technically has an exponent of 1. So if you were to add them together, you get 21, which is why this works. Now I'm going to do the same thing to I to the 20th power that I did with the other problems. (20) is the same thing as 2 times 10, so now I can get I squared in there, and we know that I squared is -1. -1 raised to 10 is +1, since that's an even number. And please don't forget that there's still an I multiplied in front. So we've got I times +1, which is I. The final example I'm going to do is I to the 11th power. I'm going to have to do something similar to the previous problem because 11 is an odd number. take out one of those i's. So we have I times I to the 10th, and then I'm going to rewrite I to the 10th. Two times 5 is 10, so now I have I squared, which is -1. -1 raised to the 5th power is going to stay negative since 5 is an odd number. So the result would be -I. So these are your 4 answer options. -1, 1, I, -I. So you can always narrow it down to those 4. Now you know how to actually get to those answers.